What's up, everybody? Welcome to Building Our Power. This is Gabby.
And KT.
And we're back with another episode. Guys, make sure you hit us up on our social media if you have something to say at Building Our PWR. Today is going to be a laid-back episode for us personally. We actually have a podcast. We were podcast guests on the People Coalition, and we'll definitely send that out when their episode releases. And we have a an interview following this, where about some race-based discrimination she has faced in Ireland, which I didn't know nothing about, and that will be after this. Before we get to the interview, though, we did want to leave you all with a couple of literature recommendations, media recommendations, to help you along your leftist radical journey.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and start. What I would like to recommend to you guys is one of my very favorite websites. And if you follow us on Twitter at Building Our PWR, then you will know that I recommend this quite often to a lot of people. But it's called the anarchistlibrary.org. There isn't just anarchy type stuff on there. If you go, there's a search bar. You can type in the word communism. You can type in liberation. You can type in literally anything, and it'll come up with articles written by people way back in the olden days, and then articles written by people more recently in regards to how they would or how they view anarchy, communism, etc. It's really, really accessible because it's just text. It's not a PDF. It's not anything along those lines. It's really easy to read and really pretty simple for anybody to go on and research and look through. Definitely recommend them outside of also going to Wikipedia. I know a lot of people we stray so far away from Wikipedia, but it's because it literally just combines a whole bunch of books into one, essentially. Every single Wikipedia article, if you scroll down to the very, very bottom, there's a list of sources, and I definitely recommend going through those sources if you do decide to open up maybe like the propaganda article on Wikipedia or literally anything, because it'll give you good books and it'll give you good resources in order to go through. So, what about you, Gabby? Do you have anything that you yourself would like to recommend to the peoples?
Yes, mine are YouTube channels. I have been listening to Blood in My Eye by George Jackson, and I like to read. But a lot of times, especially when I had to work, it was a lot to have to sit down and read and sit out that time. So I have found a YouTube channel called Black Flag Audiobooks that have audiobooks of leftist books, zines, and just pamphlets and other materials. Very good and informative stuff, and also introduced me to all types of writers and all types of people like that, as well as a YouTube channel called Real Black, REEL Black. It's not necessarily all leftist black content, but it does have black historical archives on there. That's where we saw some of that footage from the Freedom March from Memphis to Canton, Mississippi. So it's a lot of good info there. And of course, we always got to hit up Afro Marxists for always coming in clutch with that black leftist content, historical stuff. That's really what I'm trying to focus on. Like, theory's good. I like theory, but I just want to know also what didn't happen. Right. So I like a lot of archival footage. So definitely we'll put all those links in the bottom. Was there anything else you wanted to recommend?
No, that's it.
All right, so now we have our interview with Alison. Today is a special episode. We have a guest with us who would like to spread awareness about something that she's going through. Her name is Alison, and we'd like her to introduce herself, and we'll start there, and then we'll get more into her case.
Hello. Yes, I'm Alison McDonnell, And as you can hear, I'm American, but I live here in Ireland. So, anyway, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, of course. We're always happy to help. You know,
Spread the word.
spread word and speak out against injustice and all that stuff, capitalism, all that stuff. Of course. Um. Do you mind telling us a little bit about, like, generally, uh, what has occurred with you and the company that you work for, as far as the discrimination and everything?
So, I filed. I used to work for a company called VMware. They are a tech company, and headquartered out of California. I used to work for a company, so I used to work for them, and I filed a racial discrimination lawsuit against them in at the end of 2019. And I'm currently going through appeals, but I live in Ireland. I was working at their Irish campus, and I had I had applied for a job. It was a promotion, and it was a directorship, of which I believe and I still believe I was qualified for, but I didn't even get an interview. I wasn't shortlisted. The person who was shortlisted and who got the job eventually, I do not believe, and I I did not believe, and I still do not believe she was as qualified as me. The only thing I feel like she had that I didn't have or surpassed, um, we're not the same color. She's a white woman. I'm a black woman. Uh, so yeah. So this is why I filed my lawsuit against VMware, and this is why I decided to file the lawsuit against VMware um, because of the denial of that promotion.
Right. And so we've been reading your article, or the article that Socialist MMA posted. And so pretty much the company's saying, like, you have no evidence that we discriminated against you based on race. Which, I mean, for these people, you would pretty much have to have a video recording of them saying, you know. Uh, so can you go into detail about, like, what they're claiming their excuse is for not even giving you an interview?
So it was printed in the article, but one of their rebuttals to my claim was that, quote unquote, they're not and I'm using air quotes here, they're not a racist company because they have, um, uh, I think they said 1,000 different ethnicities and nationalities or something like that,
Yeah.
which is again hilarious to me because anyone who knows anything even basic about race knows that race is not the same as ethnicity. It's not the same as nationality. So this is why, for example, my current legal team, the lawyer is black as well. Her and I are both the same race, but we are not the same ethnicity.
Right.
She is of Nigerian descent, and I'm a Black American. So we're not even the same ethnicity. So
Right.
whilst we're the same race, we're just not the same ethnicity. So this again, I felt like was, sorry, I felt that it was, this would have never, this would have never, this wouldn't have flown in the U.S. That that reasoning wouldn't have flown because at least most people in the U.S. have a basic understanding of the difference between nationality, race, and ethnicity. But I feel like here, because this is a 94% white country, they don't. Yeah, it's 94%. And they don't. I mean, I've had things that have happened to me that I really feel like Ireland is what I could imagine 1950s, 1960s USA was. Um,
Wow.
like my tire has been slashed. I've been, I'm the only black person in the area I live in my little neighborhood. My car tire's been slashed. Some of my neighbors have, um, you know, basically, reported us saying that we abuse our dog. We let our dog outside. What? Yeah. I mean, just crazy stuff. We let our dog into walk around the city. What are you talking about? I don't even. I mean, because it's laughable to me and other black people because it's like, y'all know we don't do that with our dogs. Like, our dogs stay in our house or on a leash. Exactly. Like, we don't do that with our dogs. You know what I mean? But anyway, so I mean, I've had for all kinds of things. Even when I, for example, have gone into interviews, I've when they've spoken to me on the phone, we've had a telephone interview. I'm perfect for the job. They see my resume. I'm absolutely perfect for the job. It's like the job was written for you, and, oh, you have a very Irish sounding name and stuff like that. But as soon as I go in there and they see that I'm a black person, magically somebody else has come up that's the perfect fit for the job. I love the excuse of, oh, well, you have such an Irish name. I thought you were Irish. No, you didn't, because you spoke to me on the phone. You knew I wasn't Irish. I know what they mean by that. By the way, it's obvious what they mean by that. But yeah, I mean, I digress. But the rebuttal that they had was that they couldn't be racist. Excuse me, they couldn't be racist because they have all these different nationalities and different ethnicities, which again is ridiculous because an ethnicity or a nationality of white people, of different white people, is the crux of my argument. I felt like I wasn't hired or promoted because of my race, not because of my ethnicity, because it's an American company. So it has nothing to do with my ethnicity, it has to do with my race. That's what I felt, and that's why I filed the lawsuit.
So what was the demographic of your job, like as far as race goes?
I was the only black person in the building.
What?
Yeah.
The way they were saying it, I was like, oh, okay, well, they got all types of folks up in there, but now you've decoded it. And
yeah, they said there's 54 different nationalities speaking 46 different languages, and it's recognized for its cultural diversity, whatever that means.
Exactly. And cultural diversity, again, when you're discussing especially a place like Ireland, cultural diversity is a French white person, an English white person, a Polish white person, but these are all ethnicities of white, the race white, So, I mean, that was, and I laughed out loud, honestly, when I read that, because it was like, well, they're not even the same thing. And again, that goes to my point of, this is why I filed the lawsuit, because I was the only black person in the building. I am a highly skilled, I'm not just a highly skilled black person, I'm a highly skilled person. So I wasn't even good enough to get an interview.
I think it's interesting because it is VMware, right? So that's a tech company. And so we even talk about sometimes like how black people are almost 99.9% of the time passed up in tech anyway. So it's like, that's just something else to add to it. Like, of course they're going to do that. Of course they're going to be discriminatory towards you.
Well, what's crazy is, I mean, we're going on tangent. But, like, now they're, like, in the inner city schools and public schools, they try to push for black people to go into STEM. But they don't even tell you, like, what to look forward to when you get up in there. It's supposed to be like not a get-rich-quick card, but something that's supposed to help you move on up. But they don't tell you, if it's predominantly white, you gotta move or whatever, you got a lot of discrimination to face, because you may be one of like two or by yourself.
Exactly. And also, I think, because I remember Nick from Fred Hampton Leftist, he had tweeted about my case, the article, and he had said, black people need to jump over the moon in order to get somewhere in life. And this is the whole crux, and this is the whole issue surrounding black excellence, that we need to be absolutely impeccable. We need to be superhumans in order to get even a slice of what the most mediocre white person has. And it's infuriating because I did all the things I was supposed to do. I was told you got to go to school. I was told, well, if go to these countries and learn all these languages, then you won't have any problem getting a job. All of these things, I did every single thing I was told to do, and the end of the day is, or the issue at the end of the day is, I'm just not white. So I'm never going to have these. I'm never going to have the things I should have had. If I had been a white man, if I had been born a white man, and I had attained all the things that I've attained as a black woman, I would be VP.
Be CEO somewhere.
Exactly. I'd be CEO. Exactly. We wouldn't even be having this conversation,
Right.
And I mean, this is also the other reason why I decided to file the lawsuit against VMware, because I'm tired of this happening to people like us. I'm tired of it happening to, LGBTQ plus people. I'm tired of it happening to all people of color. I'm tired of it happening to people that have a disability. I'm tired of us being constantly shut out of what we should already, what should be ours, what we should be able to be a part of. And this is why I decided to, I've already said it before, but this is why I decided to basically take one for the team kind of thing, because we're all in this boat together. We all have to deal with this at varying levels. And so that's why I decided to file the lawsuit against VMware. And this is I'm not the first person as well to do this,
Oh, really?
VMware has, in 2019, there was a lawsuit against VMware by a woman, filed by a woman by the name of Sandy Vasquez. She filed the lawsuit because allegedly she was denied a job because of her DACA. She was a DACA recipient. And I don't know where the case is at right now, but that was in 2019. Also, their former CEO Pat Gelsinger went on. It was called I think it was something Cup of Joe or something like that. I forgot the name of the show, but basically he said, and I'm paraphrasing. He basically said, we recognize that we have a problem with these numbers here, and we're going to do everything we can to raise diversity. But the thing is, you can say all that you want. You can say whatever you want.
Oh, yeah.
But on the ground, if you're not doing it, it's all empty. It's all empty. Because at the time that I was working at VMware, less than 3% of the workforce globally was black.
Holy
Yeah.
crap.
And globally.
Jesus.
Less than 1.5% was of management was black globally. So
See.
I already knew that I wasn't going to get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have been the Beyonce of the tech, I wasn't ever going to get that, But see, also the thing is, at least in Ireland, their understanding of diversity is just a white person with different color hair.
No.
Yes, or a white woman. This is their understanding of diversity. When from the school of thought that we come from, diversity actually means diversity, i.e., you come from a different country, you're a different race, you're a different ethnicity, all these things, different gender, all of these things means true diversity to us.
Yeah.
But for them, it's, for example, the job was in Cork, Ireland, and for them, diversity would be an Irish person that came from Dublin, an Irish white woman that came from Dublin. That's diversity.
What?
That's not diversity for me, because diversity is true diversity of thought. And if you grew up in the same situation, in the same culture as this other person, then that's not true diversity.
Literally.
Exactly. So,
So, I guess if that's how they think,
I can't even
then
wrap my
their
mind
laws
around
are like totally different. Like as far as what's discrimination and what's not.
well, I mean, so Ireland is okay. So a third of the Irish workforce is employed by American companies. So, and I'm saying that because this is American companies are their bread and butter. So what in the 80s and the 90s, it was called the Celtic Tiger. We call it Celtic Tiger, but they call it the Celtic Tiger. And so basically, it was all these American companies. They had enticed American companies to come over to Ireland because Ireland was dirt poor. I mean, dirt poor. So, like outhouses, dirt poor. Okay. So Ireland, they had never really been able to come out of come out from under English colonialism and oppression. Okay.
Right.
So what the architects of basically the Celtic Tiger did is they enticed American companies to come over here, and they did that by offering American companies zero tax to do business here.
Ooh.
Okay, so and this is known. I'm not saying anything that's not known. Okay. Don't worry, I'm not going to have to move out of Ireland. I'm not saying anything that people don't know. Anyway, so by enticing American companies to come here, the Irish, for example, their life expectancy raised to the age of most Western countries, so about 75 years. So that's how much of an impact that American companies have had here. Yeah. So their laws, going back to your question, their laws are very much pro-employer, especially if that employer is an American company. Now you have to, again, it has to be a situation where it is so, I mean, this, to be honest, my situation is so obvious, but it has to be like, somebody coming in a Klan outfit, really, at this point, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has to be so obvious, them basically saying, we don't hire N-words, you know what I mean, kind of thing, for them to say, okay, this was discrimination. And it's almost a situation of plausible deniability, if if they didn't come in the Klan outfit, if they didn't say the N-word to your face, then, or if your boss didn't say the N-word to your face, because the N-word was said at my job, by the way, but then nothing happened to you, so wow. This is the issue that I'm coming up against. I mean, even in, for example, the court, proceedings, I don't really have, there's no real way for me to get a fair deal here. Because again, American companies run the show. And also, even for example, they didn't even have a court reporter. The judge or the adjudicator, they call it an adjudicator. The adjudicator was taking notes. Like you're in school. Remember when we were in school? What? Just taking hand notes. Yeah. There was no court reporter. So many things he just missed.
What in the world?
Exactly. Discovery, because it's not really a court. It's, so there's no discovery. So we can't even ask them, okay, give us all the people, for example, give us every single person that applied for the job, their race, their demographic, all of it, We can't ask for that. My legal team can't ask for that. So it's basically a situation of it's me against them. It's David and Goliath. You know what I mean? There's no way for me to get a fair deal in this sort of environment. And they know that. And that's why I think as well what enticed American companies to come here.
Because they can get away with murder pretty much.
Yeah, they can get away with the things. See, so this lawsuit that I have against VMware, this would have been a slam dunk in the U.S., especially in California. Especially in California. But here in Ireland, nope. It's not a slam dunk because they can get away with anything here.
Wow.
It's hard to like process and think about. Like you just said, like what you just said, all of what you said is kind of like, it's hard to wrap your mind around because we as Americans have a different view, right? So we're thinking of it as like, oh, well, that's automatic. Like they should automatically just like shut down the whole company because that's just racist and terrible.
I mean, it's not gonna happen either, but
still, like you saying you don't really have any type of chance anyway, it's sad and it's depressing. And so, like, what do you think, or what would you like really for to happen, like at the end of everything?
I really want these companies to stop paying lip service to diversity. I want people that are different, or quote unquote different. I want people that are quote unquote different, are quote unquote not the right color, not the right gender, not the right, sexual orientation, whatever, not the right whatever, quote unquote. I want us to have a fair deal here. I want us to not be at a disadvantage just because of really an accident of birth. And I don't like to use the term accident, but you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
I'm tired of this, and I'm tired of the hypocrisy. I'm tired of all of these companies, not just VMware. I'm tired of these companies, putting up black faces on their, websites, but they don't actually hire us. I'm tired of them, changing their logo to, an LGBTQ plus flag. Yet, that's interesting. I have never met a trans person who I worked with in any company, actually. Any company. Yet, for example, black trans women have a life expectancy of 30 years. I'm tired of the hypocrisy. I'm tired of it not being... I'm tired of the games, and I don't want it anymore. And this is why I decided to file the lawsuit. This is why I decided to take the first step, so that everybody else, other people that maybe, didn't feel empowered, maybe they didn't feel like they had any sort of chance. I took the first step so that they could do it, so they can go get themselves some justice. And, this is basically why I'm, wringing myself out to dry with this. And this is what I want. And I know that's pie in the sky, but I just can't, I can't be in this world anymore and not be, and just be going along like everything's okay.
Right. But that's good though, because that's usually how it starts. People, they just go along with things because they feel like, they have no voice. You are fighting Goliath. You're fighting the whole country. You're fighting corporations. But usually when people see other folks stand up, it gives them power to be like, okay, well, maybe I can as well. And you can start something. So I definitely commend what you're doing. And hopefully, if anything, it would just, like we said, empower other people and give them hope that, things don't have to stay this way, especially in Ireland where it's like 90-some% white.
I didn't even know that. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I figured it was mainly white people.
Yeah,
you don't really meet that many.
But not 94%. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't even think it would be that much. I knew it was white people, but
it's huge. But it's also a reason why, and of course I don't have the statistics on this, but I could imagine this is why white South Africans love coming here. They've moved here in droves.
Oh, wow.
Of course. Obviously, So in my head, it all makes sense. I've had white people ask me what part of Africa I come from with this big American accent that I have. And I just tell them, California, that's the part. That's the part of Africa I came from. I mean, these people, the amount of ignorance is, I mean, I have a friend, she's not black, but I have a friend who's also American. She graduated from MIT. MIT.
Right.
It is, in the last 10 years, it has been ranked number one on the QS top universities list, world list, global list. You know, she can't even, she's worked with NASA. She has a doctorate from MIT in mathematics.
Wow.
She can't even get a job in her field here in Ireland because she doesn't have a degree from an Irish institution.
What?
Let me put that in context for you. The top Irish institution here is Trinity. Trinity, on that same list that MIT is ranked 1, Trinity is ranked 101. They don't even have a university on the top 100 list.
So they're going to possibly make her go back to school to even have to.
You know what that reminds me of? Those company towns that we were talking about before. And like how these corporations will go to places that don't have access to a lot of resources and will basically just put them into the company so that they can work for them. And then they'll also create schools within that same town and grocery stores and all of these things because the companies are the ones that have access to the resources, right? And so people just continue on being propagated. Like propaganda just keeps fueling everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also, it's not even as well mapped out, if I could say that, because the schools here are still not top. Education here is not amazing at all by any stretch of the imagination. You have a housing shortage. So you have all these workers that don't have a place to live. You know, you have this was not thought out. The architects of the Celtic Tiger, by attracting these American companies, this was not thought out at all.
So I have a question. So if the schools and stuff aren't great, who is getting the job? Like, is it still mainly Irish people, or is it white immigrants from other countries?
No, it's mainly they basically, or at least from what I could glean from the numbers of, you know, upper management and things like that, it looks, from what I could glean, was that the top jobs are earmarked for Irish people.
Okay.
And I mean, even to that point, for example, black foreign people in this country, so myself, people like myself, we are 5 times more likely to be unemployed in our field.
Whoa.
Than any other group. We're also, conversely, the minority group that is more likely to be educated above a bachelor degree.
Make that make sense. It's the same thing in Memphis.
Exactly. We are more likely to be discriminated against, but we're also more likely to be educated. And black Irish people, so black people that were born here or they have an Irish passport or an Irish parent or parents, they are 2 times more likely. So to be unemployed. For example, and another example, here in Ireland, guess how many black teachers they have at the professor level at the university level?
It can't be hardly anybody. What?
No, I was thinking 5. How big is Ireland? Now you got me trying to figure out these Ireland statistics. I want to figure out
Ireland is approximately 5 million people, so it's not that big, but it should be big enough to hire more than one black person as a professor. And also, and I know her, by the way. She's fabulous. She's wonderful. But also, for example, Ireland. But then again, conversely, you'll have these institutions here in Ireland that are teaching, you know, race, things like that. You'll have these institutions that are teaching Black history, and guess who's teaching it? A white Irish person.
No.
Yes.
Wow. So now that you put everything in context, then your case, to me, your case looks cut and dry.
I mean, but that's what I was saying. If this was in the U.S., this wouldn't even gone this far.
Yeah.
You know, because this is slam dunk. This is so obvious what it is, you know. But again, I'm here having to fight this in Ireland because this is truly the land that time forgot, you know. And maybe that was by design. Maybe that was why one of the factors why these American companies came here, because they could do things that they couldn't do back home. Maybe.
Oh, for sure.
You know, but yeah. So this is why, again, I'm taking this case. I already knew there's no way I'm gonna win because, I mean, white supremacy. I mean, we always talk about white supremacy, and I think a lot of people understand white supremacy in the American context. But what people don't understand is white supremacy is global.
Yeah.
And whilst the Irish at a time were not considered white by the English, that time is long since gone. Yep. On the current apparatus, on the current white supremacist apparatus, they are white now. So they have been imbued with whiteness, which is another term for power. So we, as Black people or you know, anyone who's different, we are at a disadvantage living here and working here and just trying to live our lives.
That's the thing. You never even hear about Black Irish people or Black people living in Ireland or even Ireland in general. That's why I didn't even know what Ireland even does. But I'm glad that you made it plain to us and like kind of opened our eyes up to it, because I wouldn't have known what was going on over there.
We know imperialism is global, but it just doesn't like
And
it
white
without
supremacy.
and white supremacy and colonialism. We know that's global, but looking at it like in that perspective and seeing all the statistics and stuff is definitely different than just saying, okay, well, imperialism, colonialism is spread wide. You know, like it's people that are actually being effective in regards to this.
And yeah, like I said, thank you for telling your story. And now I'm gonna actually like look into this history of Ireland now, because you got me on this little rabbit hole. We finna now we finna become Ireland historians. I want to know what's up. But yeah, thank you so much, Alice. Said we'll definitely spread your story and continue to spread it. Like we said, hopefully this can embolden other people in your area to speak up about it, because we, of course, will be speaking up about it with you, helping you share whatever it is you need us to share and get out. Absolutely. Is there anything you wanted to share, shout out, anything?
No, really. I just wanted to try to get this as much out there as humanly possible. Because again, I want to be able to embolden other people. My lawsuit might not be successful, and most likely won't. But I'm gonna keep fighting as much as I can, as long as I have breath to fight. And hopefully it'll empower other people to get themselves some justice, because they deserve it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, guys. So this has been Building Our Power. This is Gabby.
And Katie.
And Allison. And make sure you hit us up at Building Our PWR on all social media channels. And I think that's pretty much it. We're out.